Welcome to the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast, bringing you the country's top podcast on the subject of internet marketing.
Welcome back for another edition of the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Thayer. With me again, as always, is the CEO of Intuitive Websites, Thomas Young. Today, we're going to talk about Facebook user types. The different folks that are on Facebook who can influence buying decisions, influence your brand, and obviously how we're going to relate it to optimization of sales online. So, Tom, let's jump right into this, and let's talk a little bit about social networking and kind of bring people up to speed for the newer listeners that just kind of hopped on this podcast.
Well, you know, it's interesting. As I was preparing for this podcast, there are two terms that you and I use all the time. One is social networking, and the other term is social media. And I'm thinking, what's the difference between those two? Well, let's say that for the terms of what we're doing, social media is the idea that people are going to websites and different types of places on the web where they can connect with one another. So the social media would actually be the website or the platform. Yeah, in our case, let's call it the website because we know the platform is going to be the web. So it would be the blog, it would be Facebook, it would be whatever it is where people are going.
MySpace, Twitter, LinkedIn.
Yes, that'd be social media. And then social networking is the concept of what they're doing when they get there. And there's two big distinctions we can make. There's social networking for business, and there's social networking for fun, for pleasure, for friendships, and for relationships. So for the case of what we're doing here, there's a little bit of an overlap, but I want to focus mostly on social networking in business, which happens on Facebook. It happens on other sites that are primarily relationship and friendship and personal social networking sites. And the thought that I wanted to bring to this podcast is that there are different types of people and how they interact with social media sites and the type of social networking they do. And so I think it's very important for internet marketers to understand the differences between these types of people. And the big category has to do with there's readers and there's writers. And there's people that are obsessed with both. And you have two ends of this continuum. There's people that are writing constantly on Facebook and on their blog or whatever they're doing. And then there's a lot more people that are constantly reading this stuff. And so I think it's important for you to know that each of these two types of groups can have a big impact on your website, on the kind of traffic that comes to your website, and the kind of results you're going to see. And as I was diving into this and getting into it a little bit deeper, I thought to myself, there's really just a few people that drive the impact of social media and social networking. And those few people are what we want to focus on and target as web marketers. And some of them may spend most of their time as readers and have little interaction, and some of them may spend most of their time, constantly typing away and filling up the blogs and Facebook pages. And then I thought, well, how can I explain this in a good way? There's really not been a book written about this yet. I mean, I think it's a kind of a new emergent thing. And I thought back to a book I read called The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. And this was written around 2000, so it was before Facebook, before social networking took off. And in the book, he talked about what drives the momentum and leads people toward change. And in the book's case, he's talking about massive change or big changes, but the rationale of the book can apply to smaller changes as well. And in the book, he talked about three types of drivers that move people and organizations toward change. And I thought about it. These people right now are on social networking, are doing social networking, and they're on social media websites. So I thought, well, marketers need to know what these people are. They should read The Tipping Point, but they need to know about connectors, Mavens, and salespeople. And these are really the drivers behind action on Facebook. And I'll go through each of these, and then we can have some questions and talk a little about it. But connectors are people that know a lot of other people, but they're not necessarily people that are going to write a lot of content on social networking sites. And they might not write any content, but they know a lot of people. They'll get a lot of friend requests, or they'll have a lot of friends on their Facebook page. These people have the potential to make things happen just because they know so many people. And in fact, some folks that are very, very successful and have done very well get that way because they just know so many people. They're connectors, and they just have a way of getting to know people. They're very one of the traits that they have is they're just very likable to different types of people. So they can kind of very easily cross between one personality type and another. And connectors on Facebook can be extremely valuable for your business just because of the amount of people they know. The second group is Mavens. Mavens are the information specialists. These are the researchers. These are the people that know a lot about a lot of things and are very well trusted. And once again, they might write, they might read. It doesn't matter as much as the fact that they are very influential when they do make some kind of action or take action on social networking. And then finally, you have salespeople. And salespeople are very persuasive. They're the ones that just know how to say the right thing at the right time to get people to move. So these three types would be then the drivers behind your Facebook strategy or any kind of social networking strategy that your business has.
Well, let's take a quick look here, because I know our listeners, we have a pretty healthy mix of people who market business to business and people who market business to consumer. And let's talk about that for a quick second here about Facebook. Is it driven more business to business or business to consumer?
Well, I think it's definitely business to consumer. But what you see, which is real interesting, and it happens organically, is people making comments about products that they have and products that they've used. And certainly businesses can have Facebook pages, even if they're B2B. And I think you might see a little bit of a growth there as more businesses embrace Facebook. But there's LinkedIn, and there's other social networking sites and social media out there that'll come and help people out with business-to-business networking. But I think for the most part, this is Facebook's going to be for consumers. And the thing is that you want to do your web marketing very well, and you want to follow the strategy we've talked about. Because, for example, if you get a hold of a connector, and your connector all of a sudden loves your products, or finds your website, loves your products, they're going to tell their 8,000 followers on Facebook about it. And that one piece of information right there could be more valuable than, thousands and thousands of email marketing campaigns that you do over the course of a year or several years. Same thing with the Maven. If your website has got great content and great information in it, and that content speaks to benefits to users and to buyers and customers and so forth, the Maven will take that information and say, I've evaluated this thoroughly, and this is something you need to do. You need to buy this or look into it. Once again, very influential. Same thing for salespeople. As far as what Malcolm Gladwell was talking about, salespeople will look at your content, your products, and be very persuasive on their Facebook page as to why you need to go in and buy one.
There's an interesting thing with Facebook, too, is when you start looking at the connectors, and a lot of times you can tell the connectors by how many Facebook friends they have. Now, I have a good example of my friend Lori Morgan Ferrero in Los Angeles. She has almost 5,000 friends. Well, Facebook caps your friend, has a friend limit of 5,000.
Oh, okay.
So you can't go over that. So they kind of cap the connectors.
They do.
Now, what they've done, though, however, is you have the fan pages. So if you see the page that says like, and you can hit the like button, you can set that up and have an unlimited amount of people that follow you via a fan page.
Right.
And that's where I'm seeing businesses, and that's where you're going to see a lot of traffic go from a business standpoint, is on the fan page, or when it says, hey, Glenn Thayer likes Lori Morgan Ferrero. And she does have a fan page, so she's able to put out more information, link that information to her blog, to her business blog. And she's a copywriting coach.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. The friend cap, I mean, they probably have to do that for bandwidth, I would imagine. But the thing about the fan and the like is if you have a rock band or if you have a celebrity, they're going to have more than 5,000 people following them. And in some ways, this connector or this Maven, or actually the connector and the salespeople strategy would be like a celebrity endorsement in some ways, because they know so many people.
And you're finding that what's happening now is from a demographic standpoint, because we also have to break down demographics for Facebook as well. Who is on Facebook? What demographics? And when you look at the traditional marketing that's out there for radio and television, you see almost everybody saying, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook. and friend us on Facebook. When you look, the news is a prime example. In Colorado Springs, you've got all the news stations. They're all represented on Facebook, and they're updating breaking news on Facebook.
Right. It's easy for them to get content out there that way. Absolutely.
And then so for the demographic that's on Facebook that wants that information, that wants breaking news, can be a fan or like their page and get all of that information in real time. Same thing with Twitter users, but that's another podcast.
That's right. And I think the thing to do is to understand that you've got to foster the growth of these influential people. You have to understand who these connectors are, who the Mavens are, who the salespeople are, and you've got to give them the content that will drive them to say more about you and do more with you on Facebook.
Well, and that's where it comes down to having a great story. Because if you have a great story and you have one of the connectors likes your fan page and is they keep changing it, so I was as a fan of your product or business, when you're putting that information on that page and it's getting pushed to them, they then can turn around and send it out to their 5,000 people or however many friends they have that follow them.
That's right, exactly right. And the staff and your web marketing team should be posting content on your website and on Facebook and on your blog that would drive that interaction. And I think it's important to be aware of the negative side of this too. And in fact, we recently had a client where one of the users or one of the internet marketing folks just put something in Facebook. They thought it was kind of a cool comment about something that was really badass or kick-ass product, right? Well, that offended some people, and sure enough, they're responding back saying, "Hey, that doesn't tie in with my vision of your company. I'm not sure why you were saying that." So, be ready to deal with any kind of a negative response, and know who your target base is, because you're going to appeal to those folks, and keep in mind that the vast majority of people that are involved on social media websites are not going to be the writers, are going to be the readers. So you've got to track your traffic. You need to know how many people are getting exposure to your brand through social media, because the vast majority won't write anything. They'll just read. And they will definitely respond to that. The other thing, too, that I wanted to mention is this idea that because the Internet's in a vacuum, because we have so many people just reading up on other people what they're doing.
The voyeuristic aspect.
It's the voyeuristic aspect. There's so many people doing that. They're doing that with not only with people, but they're doing it with information and concept and things. And so in some ways, the Internet has this kind of invisible tipping point. In the past, you could really measure tipping points and you could see them. But now with the Internet, it happens in the privacies of someone's office or home, with just them and their computer. One of the ways that this shows itself is in elections. And we have an election coming up in November, and the media has got all this hype about what's going to happen in the election. Well, it's probably already happened, but no one is making any comments about it because it's all this invisible interaction on Facebook and through the web and that sort of thing. And because most people don't write about what they're thinking, they just read, it doesn't come until the election time when they actually put their ballot in that you see the results of all this stuff happening on the web.
Well, this it's an interesting thing you mentioned with that way too, is all that information is cataloged. So anytime somebody mentions something online, it gets recorded. So if you're actually going to put your opinions out there, they are going to be recorded for everybody to see.
Right.
And something interesting with Facebook.
Forever.
Forever. If you really want to find out what demographics, if you've got a fan page and you're looking at who's following you, you can go into their profiles and take a look at who those people are.
Right.
There is so much information out there that's demographic information that is gold.
Yes, absolutely.
And in addition to that, just like Google, you can go into ads and create an ad for Facebook.
Right.
And you can go in there. Now, the other part of advertising that Google doesn't have is if you go into your Facebook account, and if you don't have a Facebook account and you are listening to this podcast, sign up for one now, because you need to be on there, because it is a way to be able to connect with your ideal customer.
Right.
You need to have a presence on there, whether or not that is your target demographic or not. But something with the advertising on the right-hand side, you see ads. You can go in, and actually there's an X, and right next to the ad, you can click it, and it says report this ad. And in there it says, you've removed this ad. Why didn't you like it? And you can actually tell Facebook that, is it uninteresting? Is it misleading? Is it offensive? Is it repetitive or other?
Interesting. And the ads are targeted toward your demographic, which, you know, and what you have of interest. So it's interesting to know that you can actually provide that feedback. I wonder if that's something that eventually Google will do. I think it'd be very useful for Google as well.
And then what it ends up doing is it ends up targeting where your demographic is. And this is a specific one for trying to sell me an LCD TV. Well, it's uninteresting to me because, well, I don't watch a lot of television. So
not in the market for
or
one, yeah.
Infant massage training. Well, I don't have an infant. I have kids. So I would say it is, I don't know what
uninteresting.
Uninteresting.
Almost maybe offensive, but more uninteresting.
And then there's another one, Denver TV publicity, how to get on television. Well, maybe that's an interesting one. That might be an appropriate one for me. Now Facebook takes that, catalogs it, and says, okay, next time Glenn is on Facebook on his account, don't send him anything about infants.
Yes, absolutely.
And don't sell him a television.
Don't sell him a television. That's a really, really good point.
So it ends up being very interesting. So then the next time thing that comes up here, the next ad that comes up is Guitar Hero. And it's a sponsored link. It is an ad, but it also says more. It's set up as a poll instead of a specific ad.
So you can interact with it. And 12,000 people voted. It tells you.
Yeah.
And I look at it in Facebook page. I actually don't even see any ads on my page. But what I do see is Megan, and it's interesting because one of the things that drove this podcast was watching Megan, and for some,
here's your ad right here. It's create social ads. It's an ad for Facebook ads.
It's an ad for Facebook ads, which I ignored because it's got the Facebook logo on it.
And you can actually it'll give you an opportunity to like it.
And when I look at who posts on my Facebook page, it's generally Megan, and Megan has close to 1,000 followers. And her life is, she basically tells the story of her life on Facebook. And what she's just posted now is what she's going to wear on Halloween. And so when you think about social media sites and social networking, you got to think about people like Megan. And also people like Jennifer, who is also on my Facebook page. She's promoting The Who on a VH1 TV show. So, yeah, these are people that in some ways, Megan is promoting her Lady Gaga blue swimsuit costume. So these folks are doing marketing for these companies. In this case, Jennifer for VH1 and Megan for buycostumes.com.
And I think a lot of it comes off not from a standpoint of they're not employed by VH1 or by Lady Gaga.
Absolutely.
They're doing it just because they're sharing, this is what I'm up to. It happens to involve other people.
So you can help stimulate this, and this is why more companies are talking about getting on Facebook and talking about what they're doing in their business on Facebook, how that benefits folks. And if you do that properly, you'll end up with the Megans and the Jennifers of the world doing free marketing to hundreds of people. If only a handful of Megan's folks take this and run with it and share it with others, this buycostumes.com could all of a sudden have thousands and thousands of visitors coming from a link that was initiated by Megan. That's how this all works in social networking.
So what are the action items for our listeners this week, Tom?
Well, it is funny because when we do the social networking podcast, we tend to bounce around. And that's kind of how the medium is. But regardless, you need to have a social media strategy, and you've got to do something like Glenn said. At least get a Facebook page started. Listen to our other podcasts about social media, social marketing. Read The Tipping Point and understand how that applies to social media and in the internet. And then find those connectors, mavens, and salespeople in your network of customers. Talk to your sales team because they probably know who these people already are. And then you're going to find them not only in your network of customers and clients, but in referral sources, employees in the company, and other stakeholders, other people that interact with your business. Might be vendors, whoever it might be. And then measure these results. And in your stats and your overall web strategy, set up ways to measure the results if you're doing, whether it's Facebook ads, whether it's Mavens and connectors, or whether it's just having a Facebook page or a blog. Measure the results in Google Analytics and make it part of your overall web strategy. Keep in mind, it's not something that ever ends. You're never done with it. Okay, we got it done. Let's go on to the next thing. No, it's something you're constantly working and improving on.
Thanks so much, Tom. And folks, if you have any other questions, you can feel free to email us here at Intuitive Websites. But as Tom said before, make sure you go back and listen to the other podcasts we have on social media. We are going to be doing plenty more on that because that conversation keeps going on, and we have had several people email us with questions about social media, and we're happy to answer those. Thanks again for joining us for the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast. Thanks.
This has been an Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast. For more information and to see all the available podcasts and much more, visit intuitiveblog.com.